It was quite the face there, Summer, for the count-in. Just looking all horrified. Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of Ministravaganza. Today, I'm going to be kicking off my time with y'all by painting some IG units. So program for destruction, painting battle droids. Obviously, we're not going to paint separatist battle droids. We're going to paint a different type of battle droid. We're going to paint the new IG series assassin droids that are coming out. We played with IG-88 on stream yesterday. So I thought today I'd paint IG-11, and then maybe a special guest star will show up a little later on, because I think we're going to get through this guy pretty fast. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump onto our IG-11 and get this show underway. Hope everyone's having a beautiful day 3. Wonderful Saturday. Thank you so much for joining us and being around. We really appreciate it. I'm going to kick things off with using some decayed metal. I'm going to paint this decayed metal pretty much all over the metallic parts of IG-11. When kind of looking at the pictures and stuff of the IG series units, they have a lot of kind of like brassy, rusty, kind of dingy metallic parts. So this is going to be a really fast and efficient way to paint up these characters really quick, make them look really good. We're of course going to be using true metallics as well, because that's how we roll. And this is going to allow us to use some dry brushing along with this decayed metal undertone. And because the dry brush will allow this decayed metal to show through, it's going to look like the metal has really worn down and kind of like the shiny top coat has been withered away. And now we're seeing kind of more of the undercoat metal, the primer layer, all of that stuff. So when I did this on IG-88 to get them ready for stream, I think the whole process took approximately 30 minutes. So it is a really fast and efficient way to do really cool looking metals. It doesn't really require any washing. You can go back and do that if you want. You can go back and do a couple of little spot highlights to really like sell the effect. But overall, if you're looking for speed, this is the speed metal you want. And this will apply to anything else as well. So anything you're trying to make look dingy metallic, you can always do it this way, especially when you're trying to do silvers and stuff. Grab a really dirty looking kind of bronze, like the decayed metal, and then just use dry brushing and layering to your advantage, and you'll get some really cool effects really, really easily. And the nice thing about that is that you're also going to be building textures and stuff, which are really important to making metallics look correct. You want kind of that depth and those different variations in shininess and all that stuff. All right. And we'll do that. And that. Is it intended that things like the T-Series, Viper Droid cards, etc., the Dark Trooper unit? You would have to catch one William Pagani or Andrew Dursum to know that answer. I could not speak to that, especially not on day 3 of Ministrav. But I assume if the current rules allow it, then it probably was intended. They're usually pretty good about catching all those interactions through playtest and stuff. But I can't speak with any true authority about that.
Can you raise it just a tiny bit?
Can I do what? Just a tiny bit? I think it's...
There you go.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's as high as it goes. So if you want it higher, it may not.
Nope.
It may not be me, Summer. It may be you that must do the work. I'm not going to worry too much about slopping over those bandoliers. We'll come back and get those later with some nice browns for the leather. Because everything on these guys is pretty dark and dingy. Nothing too shiny. You don't want to be super shiny when you're, sneaking around, assassinating people. Although IG-11, much less of an assassin as we saw. I don't think he does anything quietly. He just kind of strolls in, takes care of his business. one of my favorite little details as we were working on these miniatures and going through the engineering process and stuff is originally all of the eyes were pointed forward, which the engineers had done primarily because it made the most sense when it came to how it pulls out of the mold and to make it easy on tooling with plastic tolerances and no undercuts. And I was like, I know you're going to hate me for this, but is it possible to get the eyeballs to kind of like be in different directions like we see in the show? And they kind of hemmed and hawed, and then Mark was like, I think we can do it. And so the engineers sat down and they kind of problem solved the correct direction to have this little top targeting array like turn different from the bottom targeting array. And depending on how you build your IG units, Dallas kind of talked about how customizable, or no, Marco talked about a bit how customizable these things are between the two, because both IG-11 and IG-88 share the arms and the legs and all that stuff. So you can kind of go crazy on how they turn out. You can make that head really, really work well for the directions in which the blasters are pointing. And that's pretty neat. It's just a nice little bonus to the overall package. We like doing that wherever possible. It's not always possible, but we do our best. We try. Okay, so now that that is done, I'm gonna really quick grab some gunmetal. I'm gonna drop that out. And we're just going to use this gunmetal as a dry brush. And we're going to dry brush it over the entire area. I'm going to start first. Ooh, that brush is so dead. Just get rid of that. That's not going to help us. Sometimes brushes don't make it. And that one didn't. All right, so I'm going to do this over the blaster rifles as well. I got some bronze on them, but that's not really a big deal. Because we're going to go back through. I'm going to do pretty heavy on the blasters, the DLT-20 and the E11, and then we're going to go through. We're going to do a pretty heavy armor wash on those, and then we'll kind of bring them back up. But this will make them feel different because they won't have that decayed metal undertone and underbase. Instead, they'll have more of a traditional like silver black. And that'll be important because we don't want our metals to feel the same on all the elements, or otherwise you'll kind of just blend together. So, what is my favorite Legion Mini from the new wave? That's a great question. What is my favorite from the new wave? I really like. I'm actually really happy with how the Dark Troopers turned out. I think, it was really fun, honestly, to get to dive into the Lucasfilm archives, find that unused concept art of them, and apply that to kind of their heavy weapons, and to get to go through the process with LFL and find names for them, work with story and stuff, along with development, and pick out some like unique names, figure out what they did. Like what kind of like weapons they replicated, and then of course designing the sculpts themselves and the poses and everything. We had a lot of fun doing that because it's a little bit of a challenge in some ways because the Dark Troopers aren't really super dynamic. They, in the show they're pretty robotic. They're very robotic, more robotic than a lot of the droids that you see, who are kind of like characters and stuff. And so we really wanted that to come through in the sculpts. And we also wanted to show their flight capabilities, and we needed them to be menacing, and they were just a neat puzzle to kind of like put together and solve. And the unit came out looking really great. If you saw Dallas painting them yesterday, the engineered plastic looks fantastic. So it really all around. It couldn't have come together better on them, in my opinion. And they're really fun to play on the table because they're just unstoppable. Like, it's super rare in Legion where you have a unit where you're like, you know what I don't have to worry about with these guys? I don't have to worry about cover. because they can't use it even if it was there. And it's really liberating in a way to like just kind of march straight forward in an inexorable advance and watch as like your opponent kind of just goes, well, I'm going to shoot them a lot. And then you're like, okay, they're not in cover. Nope. And then all of these like laser bolts just kind of bounce off of them and they take all this punishment while they just continue to lay down a whole bunch of fire. And it's also really fun to know that they get to go twice in a round. So like their first activation, you get to see them do a lot of cool stuff, and then you're like, oh yeah, but they get to go again. I don't know. It's just they feel like they are sold in the show as kind of like this ultimate super weapon that everyone's kind of terrified of and no one really knows how to deal with. And obviously, yeah, if you watched the game stream yesterday between me and Pagani, you can definitely, have great turns where you just roll really well, or you bring the right weapons to bear on them, and they die like anything else with the right application of force and a little bit of dice, luck and probability, but they just have that feeling, right? They just feel right. And for me, I want the miniatures and the units that I play with to feel like they're authentic to the experience. And Dark Troopers really do. And the fact that they do things so differently and feel so different from every other kind of Legion unit just based on the fact that they don't care about cover and they do all this stuff is just super fun. So I really like the false sense of superiority you get when playing them. And then you watch as, Pagani rolls 5 criticals and your red saves all fail you and half the unit gets wiped out, and then all of a sudden you feel really, really concerned all of a sudden. Like maybe a Jedi just showed up in the elevator and now you're like, uh-oh. We didn't plan on this. The Dark Troopers do not have to take a programming slot. It is not required. They can choose to, and they do come with one unique programming slot. Or one unique programming upgrade card in the box, which is specific to them. But you do not have, like in the game yesterday, we didn't have a programming upgrade slot on them, so it's not at all required. You can very, very easily choose not to do it. All right, so yeah, I'm using decayed metal for the dirty brass from scale 75, and then this is just gunmetal. Sorry, it's gunmetal from Vallejo. Did we ever consider keeping the acrylic light stands? No, we didn't. Like Dallas, I think has talked about this a little bit. We kind of discussed, and Marco talked about it during the panel where we showed off the sculpts and stuff. For us, the flight stand really pulls away from the story of the miniature, so wherever possible, we always try to use a scenic element or some kind of special effect to lift the miniature into the air and show the dynamic action they're trying to do. It's just we don't like the composition element of the flight stand. Having a clear plastic thing going up your backside it's just not great. And so, it's always harder to do it that way. It's harder to like puzzle through it. But I think overall, you wind up with a much more artistic composition, and it feels more in-world, and it doesn't pull you out of the scene, right? Because you just kind of see everything there. And yes, you can argue that, well, but then they're just always on this like smoke cloud or whatever. And sure, but that's just, these are statuesque, right? They are a snapshot. And so that's kind of the trade-off of it. I need my brown. There we go. I'm going to use some charred brown. We're going to do the bandoliers really quick. Whoop. So I'm just going to paint the bandoliers because then I'm going to go through and we're going to hit everything with a nice brownish kind of like armor wash. And by that point, we'll pretty much be done for tabletop. Like I said, this process goes super fast. If we wanted to get fancy, and maybe depending on how the wash dries, we will. We can go back through and do another really light dry brush of the decayed metal over the top, and that'll just add that extra like kind of texture and visual interest to the metal and make it look even more worn down and old and like things are like running through and everything. And unfortunately, even if the Dark Troopers wanted to, nanny programming is specifically limited to IG-11 here. So only one robot gets to be a nanny, and it's the bestest of nannies. Okay, so that's done. I don't remember what the bandolier colors are, but we're going to assume that these little boxes are silver. And if I'm wrong, oh well. They're easy to fix later. But just for the sake of where we are right now, I'm going to do that. Okay, and then we're going to grab a little bit of this. So I've got some black ink. I think I have some blue ink somewhere, maybe. No. For some reason I have red ink. That's really weird to me. Let's flip this open. Oh, so loud. Sorry, Summer. Where'd my ink go?
I ate it.
You ate it?
I drank it.
I mean, kudos to you then, I guess. Let me know how that goes for you. Here we go. All right. Yeah, the double bandolier is 11. The single bandolier is 88. And then 88 also has the weird melee weapon that you can attach to him. It kind of looks like a shovel. It's very strange. It's like a glaive sort of looking thing. All right, so we're just going to quickly do this armor wash. All over everything. And, you know, we were pretty sloppy with the dry brush. We weren't trying to get everything covered properly. Like, the more spotty it is, kind of the better that worn metal effect is. You know, actually, forget it. We're just gonna, we'll go over the bandoliers with the armor wash too, because that'll dinge them up just fine. And then if we want to go back and do something different with them, we can. But this will just be real quick. Yeah, we did look to the original video game that Dark Troopers, you know, appeared in a little bit initially for inspiration, but thankfully there was so much content and kind of hidden gems from the Mandalorian show that they hadn't necessarily used in the show, but had concepted or talked about at LFL, that we were able to really just key in on the show's interpretation and kind of storytelling of the Dark Troopers, and we really didn't look too much at all after that at anything from the older video games. We were able to kind of have the more modern take from that great TV show, which was nice. But we were prepared to dig back in and find something that ran Windows 97 and reload that classic game. Okay, so there is that. The last thing I want to do is this one. Yes. I'm going to just go over the bandoliers one more time with a brown ink wash. Just to really kind of like get that leather feel in there. And then we'll let this dry and come back a little bit. And then we'll go in from there. And I think while this IG-11 dries, I might cheat, and instead of painting a battle droid, we'll activate our nanny programming and paint a little baby Grogu. All right, so there's where we are right now. Once all that wash dries, you could call it done. The only thing we're going to go back in, we're going to go in and we're going to do a couple little highlights and stuff to finish this fella off. But all right, so Grogu's. 2 come in the pack with Din. We've shown both of those at this point. There's the little Magic Hands one. Woo! And then there is the frog one, where he's eating a little frog snack. However, we had the chance to partner with Hobby Next, which is an Asmodee program that really strives to support retailers and everything else. And you want me to hold it this way? I don't know. I was going to try to get in camera. If your store is part of the Hobby Next program or wants to get involved, they can contact their Asmodee sales rep. They can talk about Hobby Next. But when the Mandalorian and Child release for Legion, Hobby Next is going to be providing stores with these limited edition little Grogu minis, which they can use to promote Legion in their stores and all that stuff. It's just a fun little alternate sculpt for Grogu because we had so much fun sculpting him. We made 3 versions. We included 2 with Din, and then we have this one, which I'm going to paint now. And you've got Magic Hands Grogu, you've got Snacky Grogu, and now you've got Soup Bowl Grogu. So let's go ahead and throw some color on the Soup Bowl Grogu. I can already tell that Summer's going to come in, and
He's a short little guy.
he's little. He's little. You got to zoom. You got to enhance, Summer. You got to enhance. Yeah, I would absolutely, for those asking if I'd go off book with a mini like this and just pick out individual plates, 100%. Like, I think, painting your IG series droid however you want, you can do some really fun color variation, make them look very patchwork. Make them look very patchworky. Maybe focus on like more bronze on the leg plate and stuff. If you look at the images of them, they are pretty hapdash. So there's, I think, plenty of ways to approach them, and of course, you always have the choice to just, I think it'd be really cool to do one in really dark boiler black metal. If folks saw what I did with my second Separatist army that I painted during one of our our army stream sessions, doing like the same thing like that. So just really, really deep, like almost cast iron black metal. And then you get to add those like sinister red orange highlight glows. You can come up with some strong like silver, sharp edge highlighting and stuff, and that looks really cool. Obviously, I would love to go synthwave with one and do like cobalt blue metallics and maybe throw in a little magenta washes and some purples and stuff. Make him look like the DJ droid assassin. So the simplicity of the kind of the form of that sculpt, because he's got details, but it's all kind of mechanical and plating details, and it's pretty simple. I think it opens up a huge range of possibilities for you as a hobbyist and a painter to really explore using, that was weird, using washes. What do you need, Summer?
Oh, it's just, I gotta sharpen it.
Using washes, using kind of translucent layers and stuff and metallics to really create super cool effects and colors. As far as I know, Hobby Next is a global Asmodee program. It's not US specific. So your store should be able to inquire about the program through their Asmodee representative. Okay, where am I going next? All right, so painting Grogu skin. If you were hanging out with us on Monday night when I was painting a little frog Grogu, a little snacky snack Grogu, you probably heard me and Dallas talking about it. I had a lot of questions for him. Dallas did all 3 of the studio versions, but his skin color is really weird. There's not really a great initial one. You can obviously just paint it green, and I think that's authentic enough to what we visualize as, the Grogu Yoda skin color. But if you want to replicate something closer to the show, the way that I was able to get close to where it wasn't perfect, but it looked pretty good, is you need to create kind of a desaturated green turquoise. And so I found 3 colors from Fantasy and Scale Games based on Dallas's kind of like overall recipe. Slimer Green, Surfer Orc Flesh, and Orcish Dermish or Ishtar Pink, either one. I can't find my Ishtar Pink, so I'm going to use the Dermis. Basically, you need kind of like a turquoisey green, a bright green, and a pink, and you're going to mix those together to kind of create your Grogu skin. And I don't know if the palette cam is working, but I will do my best to stay in here. No! Where's my pen? Where is it? This thing is clogged. All right. Showstopper. There we go. Oh, gosh. Hydraulic pressure, you're the best. Pulling a Josh over here. Putting paint everywhere. And then a little bit of the Slimer Green. Okay, so at this point, it just kind of becomes a mix and match them until you feel like you got it right. And what you're looking for is a pretty desaturated blue-green. It's almost grayish, but still has those elements in it, and that's where the green kind of helps you out. But it is very much just kind of a feeling thing. And obviously having a reference picture up, I had one on Monday night to kind of help me with my color matching. And every picture is going to be a little different because all those photos are accounting for the lighting of the scene and everything. So they're all going to be different. Pick the one that you like the best, and then go with that one. So there's really no right or wrong answers when you're painting your Grogu. Like I said, find the one that makes it most authentic to your experience. A little more pink maybe, just desaturate just a little bit more. I think that's pretty close right now. It's a little green. It's a little too green. Let's try adding a little Miskatonic gray, because there is a lot of gray in that skin too. So we're just going to be careful with this. Just kind of pull it down a little bit more pink. So the pink color is going to really desaturate and dull the greens, and that's kind of what you want to hit that right skin tone. A little bit of gray is also going to pull it down and dull it, because it's a really flat kind of pastel-y green. It doesn't have a lot of warmth until you get to his little rosy pink cheek blush. How's that look? That's pretty good. We'll just go with that. I could mess with this quite a bit more probably to get it closer, but I think that's pretty good. And we can always play with it as we get it on the mini itself. So let's go ahead and go in and just start painting his teensy tiny little face. Oh, he's so happy. So this is going to be a little more green of a Grogu, and that's okay. like I said, it's going to look right to pretty much everyone who doesn't know or have a reference picture right in front of them of the actual Grogu skin. I think we could have used a little more blue in this, but I'm pretty happy with it. And if I wanted to, I could go back and kind of adjust as well. But we have that nice desaturation. You know, it's not like animated Yoda skin. It's definitely not on a lot of that green spectrum side. But you need to start with. It's really important that you start with a really good yellow green. So kind of like that Slimer green is a really good example of that. A fairly vibrant green, and then you want to pull it back down because you need that yellow in there to work with the blues and then to like work with the pinks and stuff. Okay, and then we got to get his little teensy tiny handsies. Holding his little cuppy cup. His little bone broth bowl. All right. Now for highlights, I'm going to do a little bit of white. Of course, this is the one that doesn't have the cap. My goodness. And this is kind of one of those things where a wet palette can be really useful because it's going to keep your paints that you're mixing up a little wetter for longer. But on such a teensy tiny little man. Oh, am I painting the wrong Grogu? I mean, I've painted the other two already, though, so this is the last Grogu to paint. Whoop. Too much, too much. Pull back, pull back. Just blend that out really quick. Over there. Pull that blend in. Head, get the little brows. Make sure his little cutesy expression is like really poppy. So mostly just on the cheeks, on the eyes, the tips of those ears. Come down here. Play with the little wrinkles in the head. Let those pop out. So I have no doubt that once we get closer to the release of The Mandalorian and Grogu, Din and Grogu for Legion, Dallas is going to be doing a whole stream on how to paint Grogu flesh. All the tips and tricks. So I'm getting really quiet now because I got to pay attention to my tiny little head that I'm painting. Turn down the music so I can find the address, kids. Okay, and then we'll get his little fingies. There we go. Come off those ear tufts. The point of the ears. You know, one of the things we really struggled with, as funny as it is, to get the likeness on Grogu right was his ears. He has a very specific ear shape, and you don't really notice it until you start trying to like make Grogu like draw the face or sculpt the face, and then all of a sudden you realize how important that specific ear angle and how they kind of come out from the head and then how they connect back to the head is. And man, for such a tiny little fella, that was tough. It was tough. It took several tries to kind of nail in, because we were also, of course, dealing with plastic tolerances and minimums and all that stuff, and then trying to also make sure that the body could be pulled in one part, because nobody wants to put together two halves of a Grogu head. That doesn't sound fun. This Hobby Next version, this limited edition exclusive variant sculpt one, it is two parts. You do have to attach the cup, because there was no way to do the cup in the hands like that and still have it be one piece. But it's a pretty easy plug and play. It's got really nice keys. There we go. Cutesy face. And then we're going to grab a little bit of black, and we'll just do his eyes really fast. Whoop. Whoop. Look how happy he is. He's so happy. He's so happy. No, the battle droids were the IG series assassin droids. We like to keep some surprises, so sometimes the titles are a little mysterious or not entirely accurate. Give him his little cuppy cup. Little cuppy cup. Maybe we'll just use this. We'll use our little armor wash. Make the bone broth in there. It's pretty dark. Bone broth's pretty brown though. And then, really quick, we'll just highlight up. Do a quick highlight on the robe, and this little Grogu will be ready for the tabletop outside of his little base. See these highlights. The weird thing that, excuse me, that I discovered when I was looking at references is I didn't realize that the cloak was really, or his little like jams are really just all one color, and including the like textured fur at the top, or like it's not really fur, it looks like fleece, like microfiber fleece kind of texture, but it's just all one overall color. The fleecy bit is a little more desaturated in the light than like the normal fabricy part of the jams, but you're basically just using one color around the whole thing. Just kind of knock out. Get going. That part's pretty much in shadow, but we'll just give it a little bit anyway. What's the sigh for, Summer? What's wrong? What's happening over there?
Oh, nothing at all. I just had to take a big deep breath.
Just yawning?
I'm not yawning.
Oh.
How could I yawn with this little guy on the screen?
I don't know. I was wondering. All right, and then I'll bring back the droid, I promise. The droid's coming back. Don't worry. I'm just going to do one last little highlight here. Using some white into our high key yellow and our khaki. That looks pretty good. Let's get some. Go to sleep, little Grogu. Go to sleep. And then if you want to really replicate kind of the cloak in the show, there is gray in the shadows, so going back through with like a Miskatonic gray or kind of a nice neutral gray will really help make the little jam colors look really, really spot on to the show. But he's so little that you don't have to go super crazy with your shadows and your shades and stuff. And I am not going to add the rosy blush cheeks because that is, by Dallas's own admission, extremely hard to make it look right and not have him look clowny. And I don't really think we need it here. If I was trying to do a direct replication, I probably would worry about it. But for my tabletop purposes, no rosy cheeks required. All right, there we go. Little baby Hobby Next Grogu with his teacup all painted and ready to go. So now we have something for our nanny programming. So our little IG-11 can fulfill his true purpose. Here's our IG-11 all completely dried with the wash. So what I'm going to do, just looking at this guy, is I'm going to go back through with a little bit of my decayed metal. And I'm going to do kind of a heavy overbrush in certain spots, so like the knee pads or the little thigh plates, I guess, kind of on the arm here, maybe get a little bit more on the head. And this just adds that little like hint of color differentiation. It's going to add that visual interest, definitely on the feet. And really sell that idea that some of, he's patchy and he's grimy and gritty. And you can do this like as much as you want, as little as you want. You could do this and then go back over it with another silver dry brush, depending how you wanted to do it. But this is kind of all dealer's choice. And then maybe I'll grab some chainmail, which is a bit brighter than that gunmetal. And I might just go in really quick and be like, okay, well, right here there's a little nick, so it's brighter. Right there, just little like ping highlights. And you can do like scratches and scuffs. Definitely want to get it on his eye. That. Blend out a little bit on his forehead so it's not quite a dot. Right here. So you get that little like reflection that's going to make it feel really, there's a little bit of desert sun glinting off of his chrome dome. Down here. Come over here, do one like right there. Maybe hit the knuckles. They're going to get a lot of wear and tear, so they're probably going to be kind of scratch clean. Right here. Just a little bit right. Oh, by a little bit, I mean a ton. Whoopsies. But let me just erase that out. There we go. Like this finger right here. Boop, boop, boop. And then I come back to the blasters and do kind of the same thing. So on the E11, just kind of hit some of the higher edges. And then on the DLT, figure out where, add those little spot highlights, maybe across the barrel a little bit. I don't quite like how thick that was, so I'll use my finger and just wipe it off. Come back over here, do this, do that, do this, there, a little bit there, a little bit there. You do look at the back of your miniatures the most, because that's what you always see when you're playing games with them. So it's always worthwhile to at least take a look. Make sure that they're exciting for you too, because when they're not on the shelf, that's the part you're gonna see. That. Come down here, and then let's see. Let's go with some Beastie Brown. Oh, that's really watery. That's okay. We'll mix it with a little bit of this too. Oh, stop it. There we go. And I just want to come back in and add a little bit. A little bit of wear and tear to those belts. So, come in, hit that, and do a little bit of little stretches and scratches. Stippling would work really well here, actually. It'll give you that like leathery texture. So that would be a really great way to go for stuff. You'd want to build up a couple layers of stipple, but then you would get that really worn, used leather look. We don't have quite enough time to go through all that right now, so we'll just do it this way. With our little like light texture scritches and scratches. Kind of sell it. Still get some of that texturing in and make it feel worn and used. Pull those out just a little bit. Yeah, turn. This blue text so powerful because it's new. There we go. Just distress that edge just a little bit more. There. All right. You might, yeah. He does like to blow himself up from time to time, depending on what you take. So there we go. The nanny and the nannied. I'm not entirely sure. The nanny and his little ward, both done in an hour, ready to go. Looking great for the tabletop. We just have to paint the bases, add a little static grass to it, and we're off to the races. So, yeah. So thanks for joining us for this one. Hope you had fun. I hope you're excited to add all of these great Mandalorian Wave miniatures to your collections, or at least face them on the table. I'll tell you, there's nothing more satisfying than knocking out Din, punching a baby, and taking it for your own, because then you own a Grogu. Be sure to check us out for the rest of the day. We got plenty more coming with a gameplay stream up next. I'm going to be back a little later on with some more Star Wars surprises. Some fun reveals, some things that we've been talking about for a while, but we're finally going to show for the first time ever. With that, thank you very much. I'll see you on the next one. Take care and goodbye.